Well, good morning and welcome to Flightlines, the stories behind the stories. And my guest this morning is Ron Boatwright, a neighbor. We've known each other for over 25 years. First got together when we were both riding motorcycles. He still rides. I sold mine. Um, but during our conversations, Ron is a retired phone man. And during that time, you worked with fiber optics
Yes, I did.
and putting a lot of those together. So right now, I did some research before we started the podcast about what's going on in our community. You've seen those big orange reels and the machines that are putting the tubing or whatever you want to call it, the orange pipes underneath the ground and messing up people's yards and all that sort of stuff. But that's where the fiber optics are going. So what I thought I'd do is I'll put on the website the links to the clear wave fiber, and then there's another one, IB8 something or other. But I'll put those on the website so you can click on those, and they'll give you more details about the companies. But what I wanted to do with Ron this morning is talk about what fiber optics is as compared to the predecessor to that, which was copper wire. So, what's the difference between the copper wire cables and fiber optics?
Well, to start with, copper wire is basically analog, and fiber optics is 100% digital. Now, that is a very, very painting with a wide brush, but plain old telephone service is where it all started. As more and more people needed telephones, copper cables are huge.
Yeah.
They weigh a lot. They cost a lot. So,
and there's just so much you can put through a copper wire.
There's only so much. So you have to have more and more and more wires. So then they figured out that they could digitize a conversation and put more conversations on one wire. And they said, well, how can you do that? Well, it's called time division multiplexing.
There'll be a quiz on this afterwards. Time division multiplex?
Time division multiplexing. You send a piece of one conversation and then a piece of another one and a piece of another one. And if you do it fast enough and it's timed correctly, you only hear your part of the conversation. It's like everybody's taking a picture, a slow motion picture of a light bulb.
Okay.
If you take a slow motion picture of a light bulb, it's not on all the time. It comes on, it goes off. It goes on, it comes off. It's 60 cycles per second. Well, guess what? Isn't that the cycles, 120, 60 cycles per second? But the eye doesn't see that. It sees that light is being on all the time. You go to a movie theater. What you are seeing is one stationary photograph after the other. But the brain doesn't process it that way. It doesn't see the gaps. It sees continuous motion.
Okay.
You take a photo or a movie of an aircraft propeller. Everybody's done that. And if you catch it just right, the propeller's not even moving, but the airplane's doing 200 miles an hour. So if you can send a piece of information at that exact time, and then in the time it takes your brain and so forth to process it, you can send a bunch of others, you don't even miss the gaps. You see one continuous conversation, but what only thing that's actually being sent is a piece of it. But it's so close together that you don't even see.
So when we're digitizing the conversation or the internet download or whatever it might be, the system for digitizing it is cutting up in those small pieces to hit the fiber optic.
And if you time it correctly on each end, the only thing it's going to catch, you're going to hear, is the part that it's sent to you. It's a big party line.
Wow.
It's a huge party line. And the party line keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the telephone company did the same thing. We had 1.544 megabit digital pulses of electricity. And you could carry 24 conversations on two wires.
Now, was this on copper then?
Copper. That's
All right.
copper.
So they had the system.
But still, if you wanted
figured
50
out.
conversations, you had to have two pairs of wires. If you wanted 100, you had to have 4 pairs of wires because you could only get 24 in there on each one.
Okay.
So cables kept getting bigger and bigger. And I've seen telephone cables that weighed 14 pounds per foot.
Wow.
That's copper, and that's expensive. It also, it's very expensive to produce the copper. So then there's all kinds of different theories as to how we discovered fiber optics. But once fiber optics was put into, they figured out how to make it. They said, well, if all it is pulses of electricity, pulses of power, why does that power have to be electrons or electricity? It could be pulses of light.
So now they're taking the pulses of electronic
digitized conversation or digitized data of any kind
and converting it to a light.
A digital signal, which is just a number.
Okay.
If you put all those numbers together to represent, say, a sine wave, then you can take those numbers that represents the sine wave, but its different values of power or whatever, put those together and reconvert it back into voice or picture or whatever. So with fiber optics, you can pulse that light millions of times faster than you can with copper. Plus, it doesn't corrode.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's underground, you have to protect it.
A heck of a lot less. Copper, you have to dig up the ore, find it, and preserve it. You know what? I know a place right here in Florida where I can get all the sand I need, and I can make glass out of it. Well, if you make the glass just the right way and make it pure enough, then it'll send light for miles.
At the speed of light.
At the speed of light in the speed of light in glass. The speed of light is not always the same.
Okay.
Just like the speed of sound is not always the same. At high altitude, the speed of light is slower. And at low altitude or under the ocean, the speed of light's faster. The speed of sound.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure. So it's the medium it's going through.
The medium that it's going to is now pulses of light. So if you can flash a light here and receive it here, and you got electrical energy causing that light to flash on, and the receiver on the other end sees that light and says, oh, that's a pulse of energy. So I'll send a little pulse. It works that way, but it's not like you got a straw and you fill it full of BBs and you push one BB in and one BB comes out. It's not like that. It doesn't light up the whole fiber at one time. What it does is it says just a little piece, and then another little piece, and then another little piece. And if they used visible light, and you could stop the fiber, you could stop it in time and look, you would actually see a band of light, a band of no light, and they're so close together that by the time they get to the other end just sees pulses. Each one of those pulses is a digital signal. The digital signal is used as the binary code to transmit a range of signals equals a value. That value is then interpreted into whatever medium you want to use. It could be a piece of a picture. It could be a part of a voice.
Okay.
So fiber optics is basically one big party. But you want to get a little teeny sliver of it. So that's a very, very, very general idea of how it works.
So basically the the digitizing of the electronic signal, the energy there was converted to a light pulse, which carries the same image or the same information.
The same information, right?
And then it starts at one end, and then it's interpreted at the other end.
Right. So
that's why we can get so many more data points in that small fiber optic cable.
Exactly. When the first fiber optic cable that was put in was devised was like 400 megabits per second.
My camera's now deciding when you moved, it was going to follow you.
I'll try not to move.
No, that's all right, folks. I don't need to be in the screen because now it's taking. I bought this really nice camera. There we are. So it would handle light situations a little differently. But what it does, it's a smart camera. So if there's movement, it'll follow a movement. So if I was doing a cooking show and I needed to move around the kitchen, it would follow me automatically. But sometimes when I'm recording this, it goes a little wonky. But all right, we're back in our frame now. But so those digitized pulses of light are coded at one end, it's decoded at the other end.
Right.
But because of the efficiency of the glass line, you can put so many more pulses in there than, say, through a copper wire.
It's basically, its only limitation is the equipment that you have on either end of it.
Well, the other thing, folks, that you'll see on the street is the orange cable that they've dug in.
That's an interduct.
Right. And then beside that, and I've seen this because they had thrown it on my lawn and I had to move it to mow the lawn, was the black, rather thin cable.
Mm-hmm.
And that, from what you said, is actually
probably the fiber.
The fiber.
Right. And the fiber itself, since it's basically a party line, the signal will come to you, to your equipment, go right back out to that little handhole or whatever is in the yard, go down to the next customer. It'll come into his equipment and go right back out.
So it's coded to your receiver. Now, on the thing I'm going to share, folks, with you on the links is what type of equipment you will have at your house to receive this. And there's from just a little box that will be on the outside of your house. They'll drill a hole through the wall, and that'll connect to whatever modem or whatever thing you have in the house to distribute your Wi-Fi. But that has a particular address, I expect.
Well,
and then that pulls your stuff off of the party line
within the data stream that is throughout the entire cable. Of course, there's a timing pulse, and then there's an identification pulse. So the timing pulse is synchronized so that when you are using your thin little sliver of the data that's actually going down that cable is timed with the transmitter. And then the next guy, he may be a couple of thousandths of a millisecond beyond you, before or after you. So you're using that fiber only for a specific little teeny slot of time. And when they talk about bandwidth, the bigger the bandwidth, in other words, the bigger the piece of pie, your sliver of that pie is going to stay the same. But if the pie keeps getting bigger, then you can get more and more customers. Okay? So it's whenever they talk about bandwidth, that's what they're talking about. Oh, we need more bandwidth. We've got too many customers. So you can do that by either increasing the bandwidth or providing another cable, which is an additional separate party line. Okay. But it's the fiber itself. That is a basic. description of how your data comes to only you and not anybody else. If there's not a problem, I don't know of anybody that would have the technical expertise to take that cable and tap into their modem and say, hey, look, let's see if we can see what John Roush is doing and not, they can't, trust me, it's more technical than that. It would take a real genius to figure that.
Well, that was my next question is how secure is that information on the party line? But apparently I can understand it would be very, very difficult.
If it would take the problem with fiber optics is that it is only economical if you have a tremendous amount of data that you need to transmit. If you want to use if you don't have very much data to transmit at any one time, then copper is fine. But remember back when we used to have the 1200 baud modem, and then it went to the 28.8 modem, and then it went to the 14.4 modem, and then the 56 modem.
That funny sound
it was because they needed more bandwidth, right? And it got to the point where now we're getting to the point where we use a different technology. We can actually do it cheaper and provide a whole lot more people with service. So you get under a certain number of people, copper is economical. You get over a certain number of people, then you're getting to the point where fiber becomes more and more and more efficient to do the same job.
Well, I would think that now that the way they're putting it around the neighborhood and most everybody's online for some reason or another, or whether it's with their iPhones or whatever it might be. I mean, we gave up our landline, our phone line, because we just use our cell phones.
Remember back when I've got 2 lines at my house. I've got one especially for the modem. Then I said, well, the kids are on the phone now, so we got a 3rd line to the house. And, but every once in a while I need the fax machine, and God dang it, I need to send a fax while I'm talking on the phone. So we get a 4th line to the house. And that's just in the past, 40 years?
Yeah. Well,
now you've got Ring doorbells, you've got computers, you've got Alexa, you've got your streaming TV, you've got we are using more data right now than any civilization that we know of has ever used at one time. At our house, there were banks, there were huge buildings that weren't using the same amount of data that the average household uses. Like the guy said, we went to the moon with more data, with less computing power that we carry around in your pocket. And he wasn't talking about his cell phone. He was talking about the fob he used to start his car.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's basically how, but what got me interested in the fiber was not what you could use it for as much as I was more interested in how does it actually work? And everybody's seen those little flower pot arrangements, with the little, the display of wires or fibers coming out that all lit up on the very end. Well, that is not how fiber works. The only thing they have in common is light goes in one end and comes out the other, because it uses the whole fiber. You think about all the data that is set on that it's 125 microns is about the size of the general fiber optic that you would see. So you go, wow, that's small. No, that's the big part. The little part is the core. The core of that fiber is only 8 to 10 microns. But it's so small, how can you get light to go from one end to the other? Well, that's the trick. If you're going to pack all those data points so close together, they all got to go right straight through the center. And the smaller you can make it, the better. Which seems
doesn't
impossible.
make sense.
It doesn't make sense. The glass on that window right there, has more resistance to light than the average core glass of a fiber optic cable that is 2 miles long.
Huh. Wow.
So if you took a pane of glass 2 miles long and put a flashlight on one end, there would be more light coming out the other end than there would be that pane of glass if you put it right on the other side of that quarter-inch piece of glass. So you've got that glass has got to be so pure that it's amazing. So
Wow.
you've got, let's say you've got a fiber, 125 micron fiber this big. The core is a different kind of glass, and so is the rest of the fiber. It could be varying different. It's called, the cladding is around the core, and the cladding glass is different than the core glass. The core glass is what's supposed to transmit.
So the cladding glass, and say that 3 times fast, that's designed to protect the core?
No, it's basically just to hold it.
Oh, hold it in
Just
place.
make it, because if it gets too small, you can't do anything with it. I mean, it's like minuscule. But if they put the cladding around it, now you can actually see it and pick it up and work with it.
Okay.
But it's also a different kind of glass, because when the fiber bends, once you reach a certain angle, the light pulse will try to not stay in the core, but it's not reflected. It'll try to go into the cladding glass. So it's designed in such a way that once it gets in there, it'll make it turn and go back in.
So it's kind of a way to corral that core light,
Yeah,
to where it needs to go.
So it's, if you took let's say a ballpoint pen, and the fibers are colored so they can identify them whenever they look at them. You have ballpoint pen, so you got this colored sleeve around the pen. And then, so you take that off. So now you've got the filler, right? That's got the ink in it.
Right.
The outside of that would be the coating on the glass. Okay. Just so you have something that you can physically pick up and identify it with. Then you have the cladding. So you strip all that off, and now you're down to the cladding. The core part of that fiber that actually transmits the light would be smaller than the ball that's on the end of the filler.
So that core is really the place where all the data is going. The cladding is there to hold it in place and be large enough so it can be manipulated. Yep. Wow.
And that's for what we call single mode fiber. With multi-mode fiber, the core would be larger. Multi-mode fiber could be plastic. Multi-mode fiber could be, most of the time it's glass, but it could even be plastic if it's used in short areas. We put in multi-mode fiber a lot for control, for machinery controls in factories and so forth, which were very short runs, and it didn't require a whole lot of data. So you would have a multi-mode fiber core would be probably 30 to 40 microns, where a single mode fiber would be 8 to 10 microns. And but it doesn't always have to be glass. But what we're using now for long distance and high bandwidth applications is single mode fiber.
And that's what they're putting on the streets.
It'll be single mode fiber. What's single mode fiber? You got a light bulb. You turn it on. Light goes every which way. It goes all around. It goes out. All different angles. Each one of those rays that's coming out, up, down, out, each one of those is a mode. Okay. So with multi-mode fiber, you have a big core, and they are usually excited, or the transmission part of what generates the light for a multi-mode fiber is usually an LED. And an LED just glows and it doesn't glow, glows and it doesn't glow, right? Okay. So the light comes out at all different angles. So the light, when it goes down that 40 micron core, is bouncing off the sides. Some of them are going right straight through it. Others are bouncing off the sides. So that's why they call each one of those directions that it's heading down the fiber is a mode.
And then the other end is decoded.
Now, with a multi-mode fiber, because each one of those has to take a different path, they're going to get to the other end at a different time. That's why on a racetrack, you take the inside route or you go the outside route a little bit farther. Well, that mode that's doing this now on the fiber, it's not going to get there as quick as that one that's going through the center. So your bandwidth is less, and the pulses have to be farther apart.
So everything matches up.
So everything matches up because it starts as a straight pulse, but by the time it gets to the other end, it's like this. So there has to be enough gap between them so that you can tell where the pulse is. So that's different between single mode fiber is, unless they've changed to something else, is laser.
And that's what we're doing here.
Because laser is basically single mode. Every photon that comes out of that laser is headed in the exact same direction. And that is why you want it as small as possible. Because anytime it bends, it has to ricochet off of it has to be reflected back into the core. And if it gets bent too far, it doesn't stay in the core, it goes out, and then it's lost. So with single mode fiber, the smaller you can make it, the better, because that cuts down on the number of modes. And then I found out when we started talking about this, I thought, well, I wonder what's changed since I was doing this 30 years ago.
Okay.
Now they're looking at producing coreless fiber with no glass in the core. Now it's traveling at the speed of light in atmosphere. I won't say a vacuum because I don't think they can pull a vacuum on a fiber. But then it would be even faster.
Because it's not, the medium is basically air.
Where used to, you'd have resistance within the glass itself. Now you're getting rid of that. Guess what? You can put more data in there now. Okay, then so now we've got time division multiplex. We get the big party line. You've got this little sliver of time that you're using the information on this fiber, and your neighbor's got this little sliver of time on the big party line. So, and it's a pulse of light. If you take all the light frequencies, light travels at different speeds that's why you have a prism, right? And the longer wavelengths have less resistance than the shorter wavelengths. Okay. So they split up, into so you can have 1310 nanometer wavelength pulse. You can have a 1550 nanometer wavelength pulse. You can have an 850 nanometer wavelength pulse. The light doesn't care. They'll mix together. But if you've got a receiver on the other end that only picks up 850, and a receiver at the other end only picks up 1310, and another one only picks up 1550, now that one little fiber is triple the capacity. Okay, so now you've got time division multiplexing. Now you've got wave division multiplexing. And then the guy says, wait a minute. Who says they can't go the same way at the same time? And they don't care.
Because at the end, it's going to be...
They pass through each other. So all you have to do, you've got 3 different pieces of wavelength multiplexing here, and 3 different frequencies of frequency division multiplexing here. Now this one fiber that used to send information one way is now sending both ways at 3 different frequencies.
At the same time.
It's mind-boggling. That's what kept me in the telephone industry for 43 and a half years.
Constant change and constant innovation.
Constant change.
Well, folks, when you see what's going on in our community, it's really state of the art out of this world technology. I mean, holy smokes. And what I have in the front of my yard, is a box that they dug a hole in that all these things come together. And I imagine what's going to happen from that box, there'll be a cable that will go from that box over to my house and in.
It will be
Or
amazing.
it may go to a number of houses, but so there we have the technical explanation of what's going on. But I remember one of the big deals that we had at the airport when we put our educational facility in there. One of the biggest challenges we had was the internet speed, because the kids were on Chromebooks and we were doing a bunch of other things. And the more kids that got on at one time, everything slowed down.
Exactly. That was time division multiplexing in action right there.
Yeah. And so when we were able to get the fiber optic cable to the facility, to our hangar, everything changed. It didn't matter how many kids were on it. I mean, we were well within our parameters of not even, oh, here we go. I stop this stupid camera. Because I moved my hands. So I'm going to move. You talk about smart things. This camera is having its own. Oh, stop looking at me. Look at Ron over here. All right, well, we'll fool it. Anyway, folks, I'm going to make it level and go over there. I'll lean over this way, and here we are again. All right, here we are. So
it sees us as one. We're all right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for sharing this perspective. Again, I'm going to put on the website, I'm going to put the links to the companies that are in the area. I'm not sure which one will be with you. I think we're probably going to have Clearwave in ours.
Yeah.
Because that's what you had contacted them, and they said they were going to do this in, oh boy. No. All right. Well, I'm giving up on this thing, but sometime in November, they thought that it would be available.
Yeah, when it came into the neighborhood, I was of course curious, and I reached out to find out who it was, found out who it was, and called them up. And my installation date is November 9th. And they don't even have the cable and ground at my house yet. But
well, it's the cable's at my house. I mean, that little box is there. The little black cable I see that coming out. So I expect we'll be hooked up probably about the same time. But again, folks, here we are with technology that, quite frankly, is amazing, and how fast it's moving. I mean, when you put things in perspective, just talk about flight. It was 100 years ago, or close to it, that the Wright brothers found a way to get in the air and sustain themselves. And then in 1969, in that area there, we wound up landing on the moon, going back a number of times. We're going to go back here in near future. The dial-up modems that we had, it would make that funny sound when it would connect, and those days are long gone.
Oh, God.
And now we have all the social media platforms that we take on our phones and other things. I mean, it's just, I won't say it's hard to keep up, but it's a challenge. And there's been pluses and minuses with the whole social media thing, and that's for a whole nother podcast. But Ron, thanks for sharing most of what I understood this morning. But understanding how fiber optic works, and I'm still trying to get my head around the smaller that core, the more efficient it is.
That's hard to figure out.
But it seems like when it's all compressed into one spot, the angles and the bouncing off is minimized, which makes it more efficient, if that's really what we're talking about. See, I understand some things, but we're going to put this out. and I'll once I edit this, I'll put it out on our YouTube channel right away. Um, so it'll be out there. But again, thanks for sharing your time. And thanks all of you for tuning in to Flight Lines, the stories behind the stories. And we encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and watch this. Also, there's a link to our website, flightlines.com. And on that website, you'll have all the access to all our podcasts and what we're doing when you go to the YouTube channel, plus the articles and the other background information that we would share about the topics we've covered. So thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day, and God bless.